Hey everyone, this is Cardfight bringing you another standard match from our standard tournament over at our locals. This is actually going to be the finals. On the left we have Ryuki playing Drajeweled, and on the right we have Alexis playing Nirvana Jheva crossover dress. So we have actually featured both of these players before in previous videos, and they both managed to actually fight their way all the way to the top. They are currently both XO. So it looks like we're going to be starting off with Drajeweled. Going back to Alexis, he's just going to be swinging with the Reno, taking damage, actually damage checking a Rakigora. Going back to Ryuki, he's going to be calling out a Falicate as well as that Jewel Needle from the Soul. Using the Falicate skill to actually put, I believe, a grade 2 into Soul that we discarded off right deck. Going to be swinging the Jewel Needle, taking the damage, actually forgetting to Soul Charge, which is a mandatory effect. So a little unfortunate, but you know, things happen in the heat of the moment. Just gonna be going back to Alexis. We're gonna be riding into that Ryu, searching out our Trickstar. Looks like we'll be calling it to the other column, the rightmost column. And looks like we're going to be doing a little bit of rush as we call out the Brahmada and actually swing at the Vanguard, damage checking another Rakigora, which is kind of funny. Swinging the Ryu, hitting a Rising Dragon into the damage. So yeah, going back to Drajeweled, we're actually going to be riding into that Drajeweled, getting the Soul Charge and draw off the Jewel Needle skill. Calling down a Swirler, Soul Charging that Chalice, calling down another Swirler, Soul Charging a Falicate this time. So they both are at 1 and 2. Calling another Swirler. So we've got 3 Swirlers, Soul Charging this time a Critical Trigger, and calling down a Guggen Ram, Soul Charging a Persona Ride. So we've got 3 Swirlers on board. All of them are getting extremely swole thanks to their skill, using that Guggen Ram skill to Soul Blast 3 cards and draw 1. And then we're going to be using Drajeweled's skill to counterblast 1 and Soul Charge 2 more. So we have Psychic Swirlers that have seen 6, 5, and 4 Soul Charges, meaning that they're getting 3,000, 25, and 2,000 extra power. So now we're going to be swinging with that Drajeweled using the skill. A little bit of an update on the Falicate Drajeweled ruling. I'm still not sure if it works because according to the comprehensive rules, boost and attack skills activate at the same time. So I believe you should actually be able to order it correctly, but it's also possible that, I don't know. If you guys know about the Falicate ruling, let me know in the comments, because I'm not entirely sure. Based on the rulings, I think it should work, but at the same time, it kind of also feels weird that it works. But yeah, if you know, let me know, and I definitely appreciate it. Anyways, just swinging this Drajeweled. We don't have the crit yet because Vanguard is not at grade 3 yet, but we are still staring down these 2 massive columns. So it looks like we're going to be taking the Vanguard swing, getting a critical trigger. Going to be going to 3, swinging the Guggen Ram with the boosted by the massive Swirler. Not as massive as the other column, mind you, but still a pretty big number. So it looks like we are going to be taking it, and I believe we hit an over trigger there. So, oh yeah, there it is. There's the over trigger. So we're just be drawing a card and swinging the other Swirler at the Brahmada. Those are really big Swirler columns, but I don't think they're actually making it all the way to 100 million. Anyways, just gonna be running into that Jheva, checking that top 7. And it looks like we do actually get to hit. I believe that is the Bargo, the one that's when it becomes original dress, you can counterblast 1 and retire something. So calling out those Swirlers in most matchups wouldn't really be too much, because like a lot of matchups don't really have a bunch of removal. But unfortunately, you are playing against crossover dress, and crossover dress actually does have a lot of ways to retire, although it is pretty heavy cost, as we're going to see here. The Embargo being the original dress, counterblasting 1, Soul Charging 1, and retiring one of the Swirlers, going for the front row 1. And then using that Borrow skill twice, Soul Blasting the 4, retiring the other 2 Swirlers. So even though we had a full board of Swirlers, thanks to Braum, they are all just gone. So it looks like we're not going to be calling anything else. Probably just going to be swinging. Oh, actually calling out that guy who is... what is his name? Braum, the actual Braum, not actually crossover dressing it, but just swinging. Looks like the attack is going to be hitting for the Vanguard, which seems like it's probably a little bit of a misplay, considering I believe Bauer needs your opponent to have one or less rear guards, but as we can see, he still has those 2 rear guards left, so that means that Bauer's not going to be able to go off. So it looks like we're just going to be PGing the Vanguard, getting a draw trigger, second check, getting another draw trigger, so that hand is definitely getting a lot bigger and looking pretty plentiful going into the next turn. I'm going to be swinging that Braum. As we noticed with the attack pattern, we were electing to not restand because Nirvana can only restand something that is in the crossover dress state, and at the moment, the only thing in the crossover dress state is that Bauer, or whatever you call it. Unfortunately, not going to be able to use its skill because obviously there's 2 rear guards. So just going to have to pass on that. But Drajeweled is already at 4. So you are in a pretty decent situation if you are Nirvana here. Looks like Drajeweled is going to be starting off with a Persona Ride, calling out a Rakigora as well as a Ristal Galer. Swinging that Rakigora for a clean 30. Going to be blocked by a front trigger for 33. Swinging with that Drajeweled, Soul Blasting the 4. In order to put the Vanguard down to 1, and now that you are at grade 3, you are actually going to be getting that critical counterblasting 1 for the Rakigora to stand, and it's going to be met with a PG. So we're going to drive check once. Ooh, a front trigger and a critical trigger. So it looks like the critical and the power is going to be going to Ristal Galer. So this attack pattern is a little bit weird. Your opponent's at 3, so they have to just guard one of these attacks. So it looks like we're going to go Ristal Galer, putting a card in Soul to retire the Burrow. And looks like we forgot to draw off the Ristal Galer skill. But I believe this Ristal Galer is at 21, 31 Persona, 41 with the front, and 51 with the critical trigger. So this is definitely a huge attack to guard, especially since you are at 1, so you're going to need 55 points of shield in order to actually block it. So the attack pattern, your opponent is at 3, so they really only have to block 1. So your opponent really has a choice to make of how much damage they want to take. So you do already have the 2 open CB, so you're not really hurting for a ton of CB. Oh, looks like we remember to draw off the Ristal Galer there. So you can just take this attack and then block the Rakigura. That'll conserve a lot more cards in your hand. But you will be pushed to 5, which means the next turn it's going to be really difficult to actually guard. Or what you could do is block this attack and then just like take the Rakigura and go to 4, which is not bad. For the Drajeweled player, I think, in my opinion, I think I would probably just swing the Rakigora first. That way, if they take it, it's the Ristal Galer is going to be lethal, and they're kind of forced to block it. And you're also kind of damage denying them a little bit because you're not letting them have an extra CB that they would have normally had. So it looks like we are actually going to be committing a ton of cards from hand in order to block the Ristal Galer. That's going to be 20, 25, 35. Looks like we're going to need about 20k more shield in order to actually fully block this attack. So that's going to be 40. Oh no, I think that is enough. Let's see, 20, 35, 45, 55. Yes, that is correct. I miscounted. And the Rakigora is actually not going to swing at the Vanguard because it's not going to be finishing it anyway. And just swing for that Braum. Gosh, once again, these Verena names are just getting to me, man. Anyways, actually starting off with a nice Persona Ride. Discarding 1 card to call back the Trickstar as well as the Brahmada. Crossover dressing into another Baru. And looks like going to actually be committing that Binaural skill to Soul Charge 1 and retire this time the Rakigora, and using the skill once again to Soul Blast 2 and retire one of the opponent's rear guards. So it looks like we are actually going to be going after the Phallicate there. And then this is going to be, we're going to go into combat, go for the Burl. Honestly, if you're the Drajeweled player, this is a little bit scary. You are at 4, so if your opponent hits a critical here, you kind of just die. You only have 3 cards left in hand, So I don't think either you overguard this and then maybe just take that one. If he gets a critical anyway, I think you're kind of just done here, because you can either overguard the Vanguard and not have enough to guard the Barrel, or you can just take this one and then die to the critical. So really sketchy situation. So we're gonna do a drive check 1, nothing. Drive check 2, a front trigger. Unfortunately, the wrong kind of trigger in order to win, and it looks like we're gonna be damage checking the third Rocky Gora. So that is all 4 out for those of you who have been following along. And it looks like we're just gonna be swinging with the Burrow, which I mentioned in my last one that it got 10k. It actually gets 2k for every empty rearguard circle, so it's gonna be an extra 6k. So that is 19, plus the front trigger is a 29, which is going to be blocked by a front trigger for 33. So looks like Drajeweled is going to be going into this next turn. Looks like the deck's getting a little bit thin, but you do kind of have to finish it this turn. You do have a pretty good chance of doing it. We did see a lot of guard value coming out last turn to block that Ristal Galer. So the amount of defensive power that Nirvana probably has left is not as much as it probably could be. But looks like we are going to just do everything we can to just finish it this turn. Using the Google Ram skill, trying to probably fish for more pieces. Literally anything that we can just swing with. Thankfully, you do have enough for Drajeweled, so it is going to be swinging using that skill, putting the Nirvana to 1. So after a quick trigger count, I do believe we are at 10 triggers out. And the situation seems to have flipped entirely on its head, because if you no guard this attack, then you can live as long as he doesn't get a crit. But as we see there, Ryuki is going to be getting a crit, dealing 3 damage, and so that is going to actually be the end of the game. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to do all those YouTube things, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.